The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." You've likely heard the modern echo of that wisdom in the saying, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Today, we'll explore this principle through a Stoic lens, identifying 7 types of people who can derail your philosophical and personal progress, and how to manage these difficult relationships with resilience. But first, if you find value in this content, please like the video to help share Stoic teachings and subscribe with the bell on so you never miss a new lesson. Let's begin with the first type, the complainer. We all know someone who constantly finds fault in everything: the weather, their job, even the food at their favorite restaurant. You might think you can just ignore them, but persistent negativity has a slow draining effect on your mental peace. Like a leaky faucet, it gradually depletes your emotional energy. Stoicism encourages us to focus on solutions, not to dwell on what's wrong. If you're working with a habitual complainer, meetings become draining, productivity suffers, and morale drops. So what can we do? First, limit your exposure when possible. If not, especially with family or colleagues, mentally detach. View their complaints like a passing storm, loud, annoying, but ultimately harmless to your inner calm. Finally, gently guide conversations toward solutions or more positive topics. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This timeless advice reminds us to protect our mental space from the pull of chronic negativity. Next is the drama magnet. Picture your life as a steady ship on calm waters. Then imagine hitting a whirlpool of constant crises. That's what it's like dealing with this type of person. Their energy may first seem exciting, even passionate, but over time you find yourself caught in endless storms that don't even belong to you. Their problems become yours. Say you have a friend who's always falling out with people. Today it's Sarah, tomorrow it's Tom, and suddenly you're dragged into their conflicts too. One Stoic approach is reflective listening. Rather than offering advice or picking sides, simply echo their words back. If they say, "I can't believe Sarah said that," you respond, "So you feel hurt by what Sarah said." This shows empathy without getting tangled in the chaos. Another technique is becoming selectively unavailable. Stoicism teaches us to guard our time and energy. You might set boundaries. Turn off your phone, block off focus hours, and let others know you're unavailable for drama. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Apply this by not worrying about the next blow-up or crisis. Stay grounded in the present, where your control lies, and protect your peace. Don't let your focus be disrupted by someone else's drama. Make it a point to steer your ship calmly, avoiding the whirlpools that threaten your progress toward personal growth and inner peace. Now let's talk about the third type, the naysayer. Imagine you're an artist carefully painting a canvas. Each brushstroke adds depth, color, and life to your vision. Then the naysayer walks in. Without hesitation, they begin to question your choices. "Are you sure about that color?" Or, "Most artists never make it." Their comments are not helpful critiques. Instead, they dull your canvas with a wash of doubt. This kind of feedback isn't constructive. It's a constant drip of skepticism that can slowly corrode your confidence. Take, for instance, the moment you decide to pursue a new career. You've done your research, taken a few classes, and even spoken to professionals in the field. You're excited, but when you share your plans with a naysayer, they list off reasons you'll fail. The competition is too high, you don't have the right skills, or it's too late for change. Suddenly, their doubts creep in, and your clear vision begins to blur. How do you handle this? One method is to turn the conversation. Instead of just announcing your plans, ask them for advice. When people are positioned as advisors, they're less likely to attack your ideas and more likely to offer thoughtful input. Another strategy is positive confrontation. If someone says you can't change careers, respond with, "Interesting point. How would you suggest someone successfully makes a change?" This invites reflection instead of criticism. And remember what Epictetus said, we have two ears and one mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But listening doesn't mean accepting every negative opinion. Discern which feedback holds value and let the rest go. When naysayers begin to cloud your canvas, step back and keep painting your life in colors that inspire you, not the dull gray tones they suggest. Next is type 4, the victim. Life is a game of chess. Everyone starts with the same pieces and the same goal, to checkmate the opponent's king. You plan, sacrifice, and take calculated risks. But the victim? They blame the board, the pieces, or even their opponent for every poor move. To them, life is always unfair, and they are always at a disadvantage, never because of their own decisions, but because of circumstances beyond their control. Now, it's important to acknowledge that real struggles exist. Some people do face serious hardships, but the kind of victim we're discussing isn't interested in growth. They use adversity as a permanent excuse. Their story is a loop of helplessness. You may find yourself pulled into their narrative as the one who's always trying to rescue them. Maybe it's a friend who blames all their failed relationships on their exes. Over time, this not only drains your emotional energy, but it also tempts you to adopt their mindset, one where you're powerless and stuck. Stoic philosophy advises against becoming their savior. Instead, draw clear boundaries. Use compassionate detachment. Show empathy, but don't absorb responsibility for their problems. Be a kind listener, not their personal therapist. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Don't let yourself get lost in someone else's drama or defeatist mindset. Make your own moves in life with clarity and purpose. Remember, in the chessboard of life, being stuck in checkmate is often a matter of mindset, not destiny. Keep moving forward, make bold but wise sacrifices, and always play your game for personal growth, not for sympathy. And that brings us to type 5, the toxic positivist, which I can continue rewriting if you'd like. Type of people to avoid. Masher 5, the toxic positivist. You know this person, always exuding sunshine, rainbows, and a never-ending stream of good vibes only. At first, it may seem uplifting, but when you're going through a difficult period, their insistence on glittery optimism can feel dismissive. Imagine your life as a garden. Yes, there are flowers, but there are also weeds, pests, and unpredictable weather. The toxic positivist insists on ignoring anything that isn't a blooming rose. Got aphids? Just focus on the flowers, they say. Don't let negativity into your garden. While their intentions may be well-meaning, their approach can leave you feeling invalidated, as if your complex emotions are unwelcome or inconvenient. Suppose you're navigating a painful breakup. You're feeling lost and emotionally unsteady, looking for someone to sit with you in that discomfort. But the toxic positivist brushes it off with, "There are plenty of fish in the sea. Just smile and be happy." These overly simplistic responses gloss over the depth of real human experience. So how do you protect your emotional landscape from their relentless cheeriness? One way is to gently guide the conversation toward balance. If they say, "At least you have your health," you might respond, "Yes, I'm grateful for that, and I'm also feeling really hurt right now." Both can exist at the same time. This approach acknowledges duality, light and shadow, joy and sorrow. You can also practice emotional granularity, the psychological skill of identifying and naming your specific feelings. Saying something like, "I'm feeling a bit melancholic today because of X, and that's okay," gives your emotions room to breathe. Stoic wisdom echoes this balance. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to understand our duties toward God and man, to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." In other words, it's not about ignoring pain, but integrating it with grace. A healthy garden requires both sunshine and rain. The next time someone tries to sprinkle confetti over your carefully tended emotions, pause. Reaffirm your right to feel your full spectrum of emotions. Let your garden flourish, not with forced smiles, but with authentic care and complexity. Type of people to avoid number 6, the manipulator. Now picture your life as a film. You're the lead character, directing your story, choosing your arcs and mapping out your future. But then comes the manipulator, a shadowy producer rewriting your script behind the scenes. Their edits are subtle, a line of guilt here, a scene of flattery there. Before long, your story begins to shift, and you find yourself starring in a plot you didn't choose. Manipulators are skilled in emotional and psychological sleight of hand. They might use charm, guilt, or even indirect pressure to push you into decisions that benefit them, not you. Maybe you have a friend who always convinces you to pick up the dinner bill by saying, "You've been doing so well. It wouldn't mean much to you, but it'd make my week." Framed as a compliment, it's hard to challenge. But over time, their repeated requests begin to feel more like emotional leverage than friendly interaction. Dealing with manipulators requires clarity. One effective method is known as fogging, a technique where you acknowledge any truths in their statements without giving in to emotional pressure. If they say, "You're doing so well and you should treat me," you can reply, "Yes, I've been fortunate lately, but let's still split the bill like we usually do." You affirm without conceding. Another vital strategy is boundary setting. Learn to say no calmly and clearly. For example, "I can't lend you money, but I'm happy to be here for emotional support." This keeps the relationship respectful while protecting your limits. Remember what Epictetus taught. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Manipulators count on your predictability, your guilt, your desire to please. Break the pattern by responding with intention, not habit. In the end, you are the one holding the pen. Your life is your screenplay. Others may enter the scene with their agendas, but you get to decide the plot. When a manipulator tries to change the script, take back your narrative, set the tone, define your direction, and remember, no one gets to rewrite your story but you. Type of people to avoid. Number 7, the time vampire picture. Your day is a beautifully composed symphony. Each hour is a note, every task a carefully placed instrument. Together they form the rhythm of your life, balanced, intentional, and harmonious. But then enters the time vampire, an off-key screech that throws your entire composition into chaos. Unlike overtly toxic people, time vampires often seem harmless, even friendly. It could be a coworker who constantly interrupts your focus with unnecessary chatter, or a well-meaning friend who bombards your schedule with invitations you neither want nor need. On their own, these moments seem trivial, but cumulatively, they fracture your focus and erode your most valuable resource, time. The danger lies in their subtlety. Time vampires don't steal your energy in dramatic bursts. They drain it drop by drop, disguised as harmless distractions or social obligations. Before you know it, your day is over, and your priorities have been quietly pushed aside. So how do you protect your time without becoming cold or rigid? Begin with structure. Techniques like the Pomodoro method, which breaks your work into focused intervals, help guard your productive hours from fragmentation. During these blocks, make it known, gently but firmly, that you're not to be disturbed. Clear boundaries are not just protective, they are acts of self-respect.
So how do you protect your time without becoming cold or rigid? Begin with structure. Techniques like the Pomodoro method, which breaks your work into focused intervals, help guard your productive hours from fragmentation. During these blocks, make it known, gently but firmly, that you're not to be disturbed. Clear boundaries are not just protective, they are acts of self-respect. And in your social life, remember, no is a complete sentence. You don't need to justify or over-explain. A simple, "I appreciate the invite, but I won't be able to make it," is enough. Declining time commitments is not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of your own priorities. Seneca wrote, "Life, if well lived, is long enough." Stoicism urges us to treat time as sacred, the canvas upon which we paint the entirety of our existence. When we give that time away carelessly, we allow others to smudge and crowd the masterpiece we're trying to create. So, as you conduct the symphony of your life, hold the baton with purpose. Let each note, each moment, be intentional. Don't allow the offbeat rhythms of a time vampire to throw your melody into disarray. Instead, choose your tempo, and let your days play out in a harmony that reflects your truest values. Reflection upon ourselves. As we bring this exploration of the 7 types to a close, there's one final, and perhaps the most important, reflection to consider. Could you be playing one of these roles in someone else's life? It's easy to identify these patterns in others: the manipulator, the energy drain, the toxic optimist. But Stoicism challenges us to turn inward. The hardest work isn't spotting dysfunction around us. It's confronting it within ourselves. Have you ever dismissed someone's pain with relentless positivity? Pressured a friend with guilt or subtle manipulation? Overstepped someone's time or emotional space without realizing it? Self-awareness is the cornerstone of growth. Stoicism isn't a philosophy of blame. It's a practice of clarity, humility, and improvement. The goal is not perfection, but progress, to examine our habits honestly and align our actions with virtue. If today's reflection sparked a moment of recognition, a small discomfort, a shift in awareness, welcome it. That's how change begins. Share your thoughts, your insights, or even your questions. Let's learn from one another in a spirit of dialogue and self-betterment. So until next time, may your choices align with your virtues. May your actions reflect your wisdom. And may your life become the masterpiece only you were meant to create.